final race of the day is about to get underway here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia. It'll be the European Talent Cup having their second race of the day. In the opening race, we saw Brian Uriarte able to claim his first victory in the European Talent Cup. Been some fast-paced action all the way through the weekend here in Valencia. Probably not this fast though. I think that could be a time lapse. Steve English and Kiko Giles here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo. Kiko, last race of the day. We've had class races all the way through. Two great Moto3 races, a fantastic European Talent Cup race earlier on, and a really hard-fought Moto2 race as well. But the European Talent Cup, always close racing. It's impossible to call what's going to happen, but Brian Uriarte in the opening race of the day really impressed.
Came from nowhere, 14th on the grid, and he certainly proved himself. He's come out of the box firing, and he is absolutely. I don't even know. I can't really say he's a star of the future, Steve, because it was incredible what he just did then. To come from 14th amongst this amount of riders, and also the talent of the riders he got through, was a very, very classy performance all the way through. And we will take a look at the highlights from race one earlier today. The ETC always provides the action, and it's one of them classes where it is impossible to predict. We've had 3 winners from the first 3 races in 2021. Can we see 4 from 4 later on? We're about to get going with the race, not so long to go, about 15 minutes until we all get going, but the Circuit Ricardo Tormo doing it again. And this is exactly what happened earlier on. It was a great start from Alvaro Carpe from the inside of the front row. From third, Jacob Rollston getting it rolling as well from the head of row 2. But soon enough, there was a big battle. Joel Esteban coming through into the lead and pushing out all of his opposition, but it wouldn't last long. He had to take long laps, as did some of the other riders throughout the field. That was Alberto Ferranda slipping back behind Jacob Rollston, who in turn, due to track limits, would also go through the long lap loop. There was a lot of pushing and shoving. That was Hugo Milano, who was the pole sitter, getting fisticuffs with Roberto Garcia, who was right in the action all the way through the race. Alvaro Carpe, though, was the rider who looks very, very secure. Max Martinez, as usual, backing it in style into the hard braking areas, and we'll see more of that in race 2. But Alvaro Carpe looked like he had the pace to go and win this race. He was leading from the front, but then disaster just over halfway through the race. Number 83 retired with a mechanical problem that ruled him out. Long laps for number 12, that was Jacob Rollston, and 78 Joel Esteban, so they were forced to take them, and that almost more or less ruled them out of any serious contention for race victory. Although in the case of Joel Esteban, he was able to bridge the gap back. But for the first race winner of the year, Jacob Rollston, disaster. Moving on, it was the number 10 of local rider Adrian Cruz, who took the lead ahead of Roberto Garcia, and as it all came down to the final few corners and the final few laps, Max Martinez started to make moves, whilst Roberto Garcia also getting in on the action. Angel Piqueras was also in the mix, as were a load of the other riders. Xabi Zuratuza was one of them. But out front, it looked like Hugo Milano was going to do it, but then this happened. Brian Uriarte went up the inside and came from nowhere. Roberto Garcia crashed out, and Maximo Martinez crossed the line in third, but a late race penalty gave the podium to Xabi Zuratuza, whilst Brian Uriarte, 12 years old, took victory.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there, Kiko, about Max Martinez dropped down to 4th position for an infringement on that final lap, and certainly in the European Talent Cup we saw quite a few riders fell to race direction, including the likes of Jacob Rollston you mentioned earlier on. We also saw that the likes of Alberto Ferranda really did get penalised for that long lap penalty that he had as a result of a qualifying infringement, and it is hard to recover around here in Valencia, harder in the European Talent Cup than in some of the other series. Here is Jacob Rollston, our race winner from the opening round of the year in Estrella. Let's get to know him.
I'm very, very happy. Still extremely surprised that it happened, but I was confident all through the weekend and starting into the start of the year. But yeah, super happy and cannot thank my team enough. quite confident and that I can win the championship, and yeah, I'll be extremely happy with top 3, and it's going to be more difficult now with the Spanish circuits, but I'm quite confident, and I think that I can consistently get top 5s and podiums.
There you go, Jacob Rollston, race winner of the opening race of the year in Estoril, suffered a long lap penalty in the opening race of the day here in Valencia, and needs to come through now today to be able to score some points, Kiko, in race 2. Yeah,
and he just needs to be able to calm it down a bit with the track limits and hit on from where we saw him go so well at Estoril in race 1. You know, it doesn't seem like the same Jacob Rollston that's turned up here in Valencia.
Yeah, he came away with a 12th place finish, so scored points in race 1, but has the potential for a little bit more. This is Hugo Milano, 14-year-old, on pole position. As you can see there, he's already had 2 podiums through the course of this season. Really solid start to the year from Hugo.
If you look at that progression, Steve, 3rd in race 2 at Estoril, 2nd in race 1 here at Valencia. If the pattern completes itself, he'll be a race winner in about 40 minutes' time. But it's ETC, we know it's not that easy, but he's definitely going for gold.
I'll tell you what, Kiko, I really like that you think there's going to be a pattern that will emerge during the course of the European Talent Cup season. Well, I'll tell you what, on the basis of what we've seen over the years in the Talent Cups, it really is just a case of who's able to keep a cool head all the way through. Hugo has actually done that as well. This man, though, Max Martinez, he looks like he's a rider that rides on emotion a lot of the time. He made his ETC debut last time out in Estoril. He's already been able to have top 5 finishes in his first 3 races. Is he going to be able to pick up a podium?
I think he will pick up a podium, but for those of you who don't know him at home, take a good look at him now, because he's going to be sideways on throughout the rest of this race. It's about as calm as he's going to look. He's only 13 years old, 3rd in the championship. It's his debut this season. He is going to try and get that podium. He's definitely got the pace. It's whether or not he's got that last lap consistency that we need in ETC.
Yeah, it's something that you learn, and in only his 3rd ETC race, tough to be able to jump straight in this morning for it, and every race through the course of the year he's going to learn an awful lot. Let's see if he's able to put it to good use here at the 4th race of the season. This is Alvaro Carpe. He's a local lad, and unfortunate as well this morning, King. We saw in the highlights there, mechanical issue for Carpe.
Mechanical issue for Carpe, and look at that, just sums up his season. He's down in 15th, only scored 8 points from 3 races. He was retired out of the lead earlier on today, crashed out of the lead on the last lap, halfway from home in Estoril, and it was only 8th place in race 2 back in Portugal. So a lot of work for Carpe. He has, we've said it before, Steve, he just needs to score good points here. He's got the pace to run at the front. He just needs to make sure he crosses the line on the last lap.
Yeah, he's been fast all the way through the season. That pole position in Estoril, front row start here, battled out to lead the race in Estoril, also leading the race this morning before that mechanical issue. So hopefully he's able to bounce back from that. This is Jacob Rollston, ended up 12th in the opening race of the day, but the race winner from Estoril, trying to make sure that he doesn't fall afoul to those long lap penalties, and he's able to keep himself at the front, Kiko.
The thing with Rollston was, it was more or less every lap he was doing some sort of off-track excursion, and you just can't get away with it, you know, especially when you're in the leading group. But they have sensors all the way around this track, and they have cameras that will pick it up. And the problem was for Rollston, he was doing it, but he wasn't even at the front. He was quite mired down towards the back end of the top 10.
Yeah, he wasn't very subtle during the course of the race. This man, though, Xabi, really was quite subtle. He was able to make some good progress all the way through. You can see there, 15 years of age, but making progress each race as well through the course of this season. Able to come away with a podium. Didn't actually get to stand on the podium, though, Kiko.
He didn't get to stand on the podium, so that's something he'll actually want to do in the race 2 here coming up very, very soon. Zuratu's first time we've really seen him in the paddock this season, and he's made a very good first impression.
Yeah, very impressive start to the campaign for him. And for Adrian Cruz, he's 6th on the grid, 6th also in the sixth also in race 1 as well, Kiko. 14-year-old. Always looks like he's able to just settle himself down, give himself a chance, and certainly worth keeping an eye on the number 10 all the way through this race.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm about to say it, but he does look the calmest one of the front leaders. Cruz says, a local lad from Valencia, the number 10 there, 2nd in his championship on 41 points. Behind teammate Hugo Milano. So Cruz says 2nd, 5th and 6th. Hopefully let's pick it back up and get a podium at race 4 of the season, race 2 of Valencia. We know he's got the capability to do it. It's all about doing it now for Adrian.
Yeah, and certainly for Cruz, he was very consistent in Estoril, able to come away with another top 6 finish. If you're able to do that in the races where you're not quite able to get yourself into the mix, that's exactly what you have to do. In race 1, we saw that he was always able to make clean moves, and whereas some of the other riders, not looking at anyone in particular, Max Martinez, were a little bit looser at times during the course of that race. But certainly in the ETC, lots of different ways that you can skin a cat, lots of ways to get to the front of the field, lots of ways to try and win these races. But typically, Kiko, it's whoever's able to stay in that leading group all the way through, and that was something we saw Joel Esteban Ruiz do. Yeah,
even with the long lap penalty, he was able to kind of bounce back. He's 6th in the championship. He had a podium in his first ever race in the class. We know he can do great things. He's just got to keep it on the right lines. He can't go on over track limits. And he, like we say, he had a long lap towards the end of the race. Still picks up a 5th though, so not so bad at all. And he'll be looking to try and convert that 7th place on the grid. It is all really though about that front couple of rows. That's where we're expecting the victory to come from, Steve. The front row is packed out with talent, and we are literally 5 minutes away from getting underway here. Will Hugo Milano, the championship leader, be able to convert it, I wonder? This is down again, back on row 3, Alberto Ferrandez. Yeah, for Ferrandez, we saw he had a long lap penalty in the opening race of the day. He was able to recover all right from that, able to score some points, Kiko, inside the top 10. But unfortunately for Ferrandez, that penalty really did just put him on the back foot and didn't quite recover. Yeah, he never did quite recover. And I don't know if that's because he's not at the pace this weekend. He's down at 8th on the grid for a reason, of course. Championship, he's 9th. He's one of the pre-season favourites coming in here. He knows that he has got to do a very, very solid performance out there over the next few laps. Yeah, of course, the qualifying system here means that you're split into 2 different groups. For Ferrandez, he was 4th fastest in his group, and that's what puts him 8th on the grid. At least in the ETC, if you're anywhere inside those top 4 rows of the grid, you've given yourself a decent chance, and that's certainly what he'll want to do from back there. Ferrandez, of course, front row starter in the opening race of the year in Estoril, comes into the season with a lot of people really expecting him to make a step forward, expecting him to be able to challenge for race wins. Yeah, and I think that he is going to get to that point. This is Marco Morelli, Argentinian rider. Solid result, race winner last year, don't forget. 9th on the grid this year at Valencia, 18 points so far, by far the best we've seen of him this year so far. He's been a far more prominent figure inside that top 10, and he'll be looking to convert it. He was right in the leading group in the opening race. But really, that's your front row there. From left to right, it's going to be Hugo Milano, Max Martinez and Alvaro Carpe. Yeah, certainly for these front-running riders, they're going to know we've got 17 laps of Moto3 action, sorry, European Talent Cup action in front of us. All these machines, identical machines for all of these riders. It really does come down to who's been able to maximise it over the course of the weekend, who's able to keep a cool head, who's able to make it count when it matters. Hugo Milano was able to do that in qualifying. Let's see what happens in race 2. The European Talent Cup really does work hard to find the most talented rookies in the world, and we have plenty of them in the front of this field. Hugo Milano starting from pole position once again, and he's certainly going to feel that this is his opportunity to pick up a race victory. He's already had podiums, leads the championship, and now needs to step up once again in this race. Steve Inch and Kiko Giles here in Valencia. Kiko, another European Talent Cup race, and lots that could happen during this race. We've seen in the Moto2 class, we've seen in the Moto3 class, lots of action on the opening laps. Very easy for there to be a red flag. Very easy for there to be a red flag. We didn't see one in ETC in race 1. Fingers crossed and touching wood that it doesn't happen here for the final race of the day, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 5th race of 5 on today's programme, and I just have a feeling this could be the best till last. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't fancy taking that bet, because we've had some great racing all the way through, and certainly for the likes of Brian Uriarte able to come through the field, he was really impressive in race 1, Kiko. We saw a 12-year-old kid keeping the coolest head out there, and really, for any rookie that comes in to do what he did, certainly worth keeping an eye on. So keep your eye on our race winner from this morning, Brian Uriarte. Yeah, Uriarte really, he spoke so eloquently as well in his post-race interview. He's only 12, he's very, very well mannered, he's got great English. The only problem is he's starting 14th on the grid, which, okay, not so much a problem in this class, but you've got a lot of work to do to try and pick your way through this pack. Look at how many there is. There's about 35, 36 riders on this grid. It is packed. This is one of the overtaking hotspots, Steve, turn 2. It's been a bit of a collision hotspot as well, so Hopefully everyone keeps it clean and gets around there nice and safely. They've got the flick through turn 3 and then the first right-hander in about 30 seconds on the right-hand side at turn 4.
Yeah, Valencia really is a true test for these riders. We've obviously seen it at Grand Prix track for the last 20 years in the MotoGP Championship. This is one of those tracks that really does tend to show the form of a rider, what we can expect from them all the way through a season, and that's where it's really impressive whenever you see what Uriarte was able to do during the course of this morning's race. Keep an eye out for that number 51 machine to see what kind of progress he makes. He's obviously going to be very confident during the course of this race now. He's got that first win, wants to make sure he's able to stand on the top step of the podium once again.
Just one thing, Steve, these guys obviously racing quite late into the afternoon, later than they were scheduled to. It's coming up for 3:25. The track is going to be greasy. The sun is at its strongest here in the afternoon in Spain, so that track surface could be a bit slippier than what they experienced earlier on today. The championship standings then, Hugo Milano leads by 3 points ahead of Adrian Cruz, Max Martinez there in third, and David Almanza, the race winner from race 2 at Estoril, in fourth. But in all, 10 points covers the top 4. It's not so bad, that, Steve.
Yeah, certainly, with the race being held up for around about a half an hour because of the delays we've already had throughout the course of today. It puts these ETC riders a little bit further back in the schedule, but considering the conditions we have, they're not going to complain too much. Track conditions pretty much ideal for these riders, an awful lot better than what they had during race 1 this morning, whenever there was still damp patches off the track and on the curbs. Very easy to have some incidents, so hopefully during the course of this 17-lap race everyone's able to get through it relatively unscathed from the start of the race, and then we're able to get ourselves settled into a real battle, Kiko.
It's going to be a big battle. It always is in ETC. I'm not going to put my money anywhere yet, though. We'll do that on the last lap, Steve. Oh, Max Martinez got a problem. Has he got a problem? What was moving
Martinez on? Clearly has an issue there. He's going to have to move his bike off the grid, start from pit lane. And you can see from Martinez, we spoke earlier on about how emotive a rider he is. You can see those emotions really coming to the fore here. So for Max Martinez, obviously a rookie this season, he's now going to have to come from pit lane, hopefully able to come through the pack, but a big challenge for the 28. You can see they're trying to get that bike restarted. We got Hugo Milano on the pole position. We got the gap then for Max Martinez, and then the 83 of Alvaro Carpe at the start. Looks like Carpe's made a good start. Jacob Rollston with another good start. He got off the line very well in race 1. He's done it once again here in race 2. Carpe leading on the run down in towards turn 1, and it's Rollston up there in second spot. Everyone trying to make their way through. Jabi on the 85 trying to get down the inside. He's up in about 6th position now with Ruiz in front of him. Few riders running themselves out wide. Garcia's one of them on the 22.
Yeah, good start from Jacob Rollston. He's going to lead it. Adrian Cruz says he's going to slot in behind him. Is he in second? He's turning it tight. Max Martinez leaves pit lane. This could be spectacular if he can get some clean track ahead of him. Meanwhile, at the front, Jacob Rollston leads Alvaro Carpe, and in third place it's Adrian Cruz. I think that's Zura2s are in fourth place. We'll pick that up on the timing monitor.
Way too much ground for Max Martinez to make up unless there's a red flag in the early stages and he's able to take up that original grid position. But at the front of the field, it is still Rollston leading the way from Carpe. But in the European Talent Cup, it really is a case just trying to keep yourself out of trouble. You can see Ruiz running out wide. He had a long lap penalty in race 1. Looks like he's not afraid of trying to use all that track once again here at the start of race 2, but race direction certainly going to keep an eye on that all the way through. Carpe holds that tight line on the run through turn 8. He's going to try and make sure he's able to put some pressure on Jacob Rollston. We saw Kiko in race 1. Rollston, obviously with that long lap penalty, only scored a few points, but this is the Estoril Rollston that we saw earlier in the year. That's Garcia down the inside.
Yeah, that's what we need to see from Rollston. We need to see him really kick on here. Another good start for the number 85 of Jabi Zura2s, and Joel Esteban, he's up there as well. I think he's held position in about 7th place, but Rollston off and running on rails here out front this afternoon, Steve. He's got a little bit of a gap, about 2 or 3 tenths of a second, maybe even a little bit more from Alvaro Carpe. Missed that apex though. Yeah,
Carpe trying to defend there from Cruz as well on the number 10 machine. Very easy to push a little bit too hard in these early stages of the race, and especially with the machinery so closely matched here in European Talent Cup, identical bikes for all these riders. Very easy to make a small mistake and then get punished heavily. You can see for Rollston now that gap immediately has been jumped, and Alvaro Carpe jumps his way into the front of this field. Adrian Cruz follows him through. Cruz is very consistent in the opening 3 races of the season, and the number 10 up there once again. You can see the 44 of Hugo Milano. He's trying to attack there on Jacob Rollston. That's Max Martinez. He's miles off at the back of the field. He's not of any interest to us during the course of this race until he's able to make some progress. A lot of work to do for Max Martinez. You can see for Hugo Milano though, able to slide down the inside there of Jacob Rollston.
Good move there. He let the brakes off, just lifted Rollston up off the apex and made his way through. So we've got the 83, the 10 and the 44 out front. That is Carpe, Cruz and Hugo Milano. As we look back further through the pack, this is Alberto. Oh, no, that's the race one winner.
Out of the race, and it's his teammate that's up there in 5th position there, and that's Marco Morelli. But unfortunate for Uriarte to be out of this race, but at least he's been able to pick up that first race victory. We'll see what he's able to build on all the way through the course this season. Very easy to have that little bit more pressure having won that race. Out in front though, Alvaro Carpe. We saw him lead in Estoril, we saw him lead this morning, but he hasn't quite been able to come away with the results he would have expected. Bit of bad luck this morning, crash in Estoril as well, so he now really needs to come away with a podium here in race 2 in Valencia. You can see Jacob Rollston, race winner at the opening race of the year in Estoril, able to once again stay in that leading group and show once again that he's made that big step forward in his 2nd year in the European Talent Cup. You can see Carpe taking that defensive line through the last corner. Hugo Milano's not defensive at all. He jives down the inside there of his teammate Adrian Cruz. So even suddenly got Hugo Milano, pole setter, behind Alvaro Carpe. They've been 2 of the pace setters all the way through this weekend.
There's a little bit of fairing flapping on Adrian Cruz's bike there. I think it's the bottom belly pan. It looked like it was flapping to me. I don't think it's come loose. I think it's just the way it is, but it's flapping very, very hard indeed as he makes the move on his teammate Hugo Milano.
Milan straight back though, down in towards turn 2. He's going to try and answer it. Adrian Cruz though, very brave. What we saw from Cruz though, Kiko, keeps a cool head at all times.
Yeah, he's one of the title favourites, and he was leading the championship coming into this event before race 1, and that's why, because he's got a cool head and he's very calculated rider, doesn't do things too rashly, doesn't push too hard, and now he's at the front. He's going to set the pace very, very well.
Very different riding style from Cruz as well. You can see not quite getting all of that weight out like we see with a lot of these riders. Even in the European Talent Cup, a lot of riders elbow down, really using that modern racing style. Cruz is much more of an old school rider. You can see with his head position, very different to the other riders. He's under pressure here from Alvaro, trying to get down the inside, but good defensive riding there from the race leader Adrian Cruz.
Yeah, Cruz leading now, and that's like a bit like when Alvaro Carpe leads. There seems to be some calmness now around the riders that they're battling. I can't believe I'm saying that in ETC, but everyone's just happy not to follow, but they know that the pace setters, the fastest riders, generally are at the front, and there's no risk of them really stretching right now. That'll come later in the race. Yeah,
you want to just make sure that you've got decent pace at the front so that you're able to drop some of the riders at the back of the group. You want to try and stretch things out in the early stages and then have an all-out battle in the final laps of the race. It is a long race here, 17 laps of European Talent Cup action. It does take a long time. It's very easy to lose a bit too much ground. You can see there with Jacob Rollston, just gets pushed out wide there by Hugo Milano, and certainly for Rollston, that's not like what he had earlier in the day whenever he was given his long lap penalty. That's just a case of just being pushed out a little wide there, but certainly for these riders, it's on the run down in towards turn 1 that you have to be very careful of those track limits. You've also got to be very careful of Ferrandez as well. You can see the 54 starting to make his progress now as well, Kiko. That's Philip Ton running out wide onto the green on the exit of turn 1. We saw Ton do that an awful lot in race 1 as well, so he needs to make sure he's able just to settle himself down, make some progress, and see what he can do. At the back of this group though, it's Angel Piqueras that's setting the pace, so that's why we're still seeing a big group stick together. You can see there the 78 though of Ruiz having a bad couple of laps to start this race, Kiko, and now trying to force his way up through the field. Yeah, Joel Esteban there down in 12th, just behind Philip Ton. As Garcia makes a big lunge, couldn't quite get it done on Rollston that time. Rollston cut his nose off there at turn 6. But as they come down, I don't know, could you say it's a back straight? I suppose it is a bit of a back straight. Number 22 there, David Almanza, was tapping his rear seat unit to tell the riders to come on. We've got 14 laps left of this. I don't think that's going to happen just yet. Yeah, good luck with that, David. It's not going to work in the ETC, but at the front of the field, you can see it is working out there for Adrian Cruz. He's been able to once again just keep himself at the front. We saw this in race 1. He was generally inside those top 5-6 positions, and that means that you can try and control the race. That's all that you have to do whenever you're in these Talent Cup races. It really is a case of making sure you stay in those leading positions, Kiko, limit the opportunities for something to happen around you. Yeah, you've just got to kind of keep it neat and tidy and not battle too hard around, and that's something that Alvaro Carpe and Jacob Rollston have been trying to do, but they then get taken out anyway. So it's very, very difficult to keep in that front group and stay at the very front of it, but they're doing a good job so far. As cut through is coming Hugo Milano. Is he just thinking about it? Yeah, he's just thinking about it. Fastest lap though from Hugo Milano, 42.699. So he's definitely got the pace. Is he going to look up the inside at turn 2? He does have a look. He doesn't make the move. Yeah, certainly for Hugo Milano, you want to make sure he's still thinking at all times out there as well, because Adrian Cruz keeps a cool head. We've seen Hugo Milano really impressive this weekend. Took the pole position and now wants to give himself a chance of being able to hit the front. But in this lead group, you can see now Garcia making his progress on Rollston as well. We saw in the opening race of the day that that number 31 machine really isn't afraid of trying to get down the inside of people, wants to make the moves, and certainly as it is right now, you want to make sure that you're able to stick with these leaders of the race as well, because when Hugo Milan's setting a pace like that, that's why the leading group starts to stretch out. You can see Milan now on the 44, close to Adrian Cruz's teammate. Cruz is able to hold on to that race lead, but right now Hugo Milan putting himself exactly where he wants to be to try and move himself up into the race lead. But look at that leading four, Kiko. It is starting to stretch out now.
Yeah, you feel like Jacob Rollston there in fifth is a bit of a buffer. It's a bit of a mistake there from fourth place, Jabi Zuratuza. Now, he just lost the front there. We've got a bit of a bobble on. That's brought him back down to Rollston, and Rollston hasn't, I don't think Rollston's got the pace of this group at the moment. The problem is when the fast riders are at the front, the pace is higher.
Yeah, Jabi just ran in a bit too hot. That's what can cause some of that little splintering of the lead group. You can see here for Hugo, just half wheeling on the run down in towards that last corner. He's not too pushed to making the move right now, but he might use that slipstream now on Adrian Cruz on the run down in towards turn one. You can see here with the 83 of Carpe, and then you've got Jabi on that 85. Garcia and Rollston are going to know that they've got to make sure that they're able to make the move, just to make sure they're in the right position to keep the pressure on those race leaders. Angel Piqueras on the 18, once again looking fast on this lap as well. So all these riders know that the pace is starting to drop, and you've got to make sure that you're able to put yourself into a position to go with the race leaders.
Yeah, Piqueras with that fastest lap there, 42.613 from him. Piqueras is down in about 8th place, 7th place at the moment for Piqueras. So he's in the mix, but he's just a little bit distant from that front group. He's about 2 seconds off, so he needs to be a little bit closer to the race leaders. But the Cuna de Campeones teammates here, Cruz and Hugo Milan, doing a great job so far.
Yeah, they pulled out another third of a second last time around. You can see the team looking on there, and for them, they know that this is a real opportunity now. This group is splintered now. You can see Carpe in third position. He's dropped off. He's about half a second off second position now, so really needs to dig in, try and go with the two race leaders, because it's another half second back to Garcia on the 31. And these riders in this group, there's 5, 6 of them. They're all going to fight with one another. They're all going to cost themselves time potentially, and that's what's going to give the three race leaders the opportunity to break away. That was Piqueras we saw there in the number 18 machine, making a little bit of progress. He's been able to pick off Ferrandez, but certainly right now for Piqueras, he knows that this group is starting to break away. You've got to move your way to the front of it like Garcia has done.
Yeah, you can't sit around really studging in these kind of races. You've got to push on early to go with these two. I tell you, Cruz and Hugo Milan, they're absolutely flying. Their lap times, they're going to be putting, what, about a second into Alvaro Carpe this time around, is it? Waiting for our time machines to update.
As they come across the line, they're down in the mid-42s. They're round about 2-3 tenths of a second off the fastest times we've had all the way through the weekend in qualifying sessions. So it is an impressive pace right now. But Carpe is doing a good job just to hold on to them there. He might have dropped half a second behind Hugo Milan. It doesn't look like half a second right now. That's Garcia on the 22 getting down the inside. He's trying to make sure he can make some progress. But at the front of that group, Piqueras, though, has done a really good job to make sure that he's able to always hit the front. Earlier in the season, he started from the 10th on the grid today, Kiko. He's making that progress in the early stages, but he's given himself an awful lot of work to do to jump onto the back of Carpe.
Yeah, he's got to really get through on it, the 18, which is Piqueras. He's got to do that very, very quickly. He can't afford to be sat behind him too much. But then again, Piqueras has got good pace, and maybe he can tow him up. I'm not sure. Rollston now he's been cleared as the buffer. Everyone's starting to stretch out a little bit ahead of him as well.
Yeah, and certainly in this group, this is when they need to start working together rather than fighting with one another. But in the Talent Cup races, so easy to say that, very difficult to do it, because further back in the next group, we saw already Ruiz saying that he wanted to work with the riders around him. That hasn't happened, and that's why we've now got 3 distinct groups right now, and it's battles like that we saw on the run down in towards turn 8 there with Garcia and Rollston, that's what causes the group to lose time. Angel Piqueras at the front of it, he's had the fastest lap a couple of times during the course of this race. He's trying to drive that group forward, but it's tough work at the front of the field.
Oh, that's Garcia, is it, or is it Almanza?
It's, well,
I think it's
Almanza, but Almanza Garcia, so we can say Garcia for both of them. But that's David Garcia there, the number 31 machine that's hit the front of that group. It's unfortunate, though, for the 31 to go down, but that's what happens sometimes whenever you're in a group battling like that as well. You can see here Jabi trying to get down the inside, and suddenly Garcia able to slide back through there as well. But this battling is just going to cost him time. Rollston's at the front of it. He hasn't been the fastest rider in that group so far. So this is where it really does start to build the pressure on him to try and close that gap down. The gap between himself and Alvaro Carpe, it's round about a second and a half now, so they do need to close it. Kiko, what happened into the last corner?
Well, this is Alman's. Oh, he's gone for a move, and I tell you what, Angel Piqueras, he was absolutely pushing on there. He almost got wiped out with him. So the front end's just gone there. The bike goes all very, very light in the braking area. It's not the easiest of corners to get right. And down has gone David Almanzo. Don't forget, he was the race 2 winner in Estoril, and this is the kind of inconsistency you cannot afford to have in this class. And number 22 down, and it looks like he is out.
Yeah, and certainly for Piqueras, lucky to get away with that one. That's why he dropped those couple of positions as well. Now he needs to regroup, see if he's able to jump onto the back of it. As it is right now, this leading two have seemed to break away a little bit of a gap now back to Alvaro Carpe. That gap now stretching out to about a second, starting to become a little bit lonely for Carpe now there. But we still got, 10 laps, 9 laps left in this race whenever they come across the line. We're only at the halfway point of the race, really. So Carpe's still got a lot of work to do to hold on to this podium, Kiko.
Yeah, he's definitely not safe. The problem is he's not really picking up any slipstream, and the riders behind him are. At the front, meanwhile, Hugo Milano, I feel like Milano is just studying. This is one of them kind of races you can afford just to take a look at the rider ahead of you. This is the 85 of Javi Zuratouza. Now, he was on the podium earlier today by not default, but it was due to a Max Martinez penalty, and he's just in the battle here, but it's only for 4th.
Oh, that was Max out of the race now as well.
Just looking to see where he was, and I couldn't see him. Max Martinez, well, come back in Catalonia. That has been a very, very good performance from him, apart from his problems in race 2. Let's see what happens.
Down at turn 8 there for Max, and you can see there a bit of a tumble for him as well. But it's unfortunate for Max. You can see he's managed to catch up to the group in front of him, but when you start from pit lane, you do well to make the kind of progress that Max did. He's got a lot of speed, a lot of potential, but very difficult set of circumstances for him after that incident on the starting grid. But certainly for Max, he's been able to come to these opening 2 races of the year, 2 rounds of the year in the European Talent Cup, making immediate impression. You can see it's still Cruz out in front. I think you're right, Kiko, in terms of Hugo. Right now, he's just willing to keep that watch and brief. The pace is all right at the front of the field. They're still running fastest laps of the race. 42.6 is only a few tenths off the pole, so it's going to be almost impossible for anyone to catch up to that kind of pace. So right now, Hugo Milano on the 44 doesn't have to be aggressive, doesn't have to attack, just needs to sit there and wait until you're able to clock off some of those laps. The gap now behind them has stretched out to 1.2 seconds now to Alvaro Carpe. Carpe now closing with the other riders, just closing him down as well.
There was a bit of a moment there, Steve. Sorry, I thought it was Cruz who just had a little bit of a bobble in the middle of the corner. It allowed Hugo Milano to initially get closer, but then Milano had to shut off. So, yeah, Milano is just there. He's happy to let someone else do the donkey work and to sit in the slipstream and just, weigh up, where am I faster? Where can I make the move? And then probably down into turn 1, but he just popped out the screen there a little bit.
Not keen to make the move yet, Milan. He's just waiting his time, and we've got 8 laps left, so just moving into the second half of the race. So plenty of time left for Hugo Milano, plenty of time left for the other riders if the leaders do tend to get themselves into battle. You can see there another rider just crashing out of the race from further down the field. But as it is right now, Hugo Milano close enough, if he wanted to make the move, to try and move into the race lead. He doesn't want it just yet. He wants to just be a little bit patient right now. The pace is good, and they're still able to stretch out another half second on Alvaro Carpe last time around. So they've got no real worries behind them. That's stretched out to 2 seconds. So just keep that pace as it is.
Hugo Milano's definitely got faster pace, though. I mean, we're saying that's if Adrian Cruz is pushing on, but Milano, he's almost riding pillion with his teammate. It's very, very close between the pair of them. There's not, I mean, if Cruz was to make a mistake, there wouldn't be a lot of room for Hugo Milano to make any kind of avoidance, and they've definitely dropped Carpe, and I think in 4th now is Piqueras.
Piqueras just closing up that gap once again on the back of the 3rd place man Alvaro Carpe. Piqueras all the way through this race has been the fastest rider in that next group. Now they really need to just let him get his head down, let him close up on Alvaro Carpe. Carpe's had no luck all the way through the opening 3 races of the year. He's stuck in no man's land right now, and he might well run out of luck once again. It's unfortunate for Alvaro, pole sitter in Estoril, but in the European Talent Cup, if you don't have a slipstream, it's very easy to get yourself dropped all the way back. Just seeing that there'd be an incident investigated after the race. That was actually what happened to Brian Uriarte, our race winner in race 1. The incident that he had is going to be investigated just to see what caused that crash. Hugo Milano Milano just trying to ghost down the inside now. This time he does take the race lead on the number 44 machine, and certainly for Cruz, it's a good thing as well. Now he's able to do a little bit of work in second spot, take it a little bit easier, let your teammate set the pace and see what kind of pace he has.
Yeah, for Milan, he definitely looked like he was getting a bit impatient. Look how close he was riding. Normally, if you were comfortable, you wouldn't ride absolutely on the rear wheel. But this time, Hugo Milano takes the lead, and let's see what he can do. He's definitely the faster rider. Let's see how much faster. The track, the last lap, they were doing 42.9s. Let's see if it drops around a 42.7.
Yeah,
track limits warning for Philip Ton.
It was Angel Piqueras that was the fastest rider once again last time around. Piqueras is moving himself closer and closer to the rider in front. That's Alvaro Carpe, pulled out another 0.4 of a second last time around. You can see here Hugo Milano now just defending that position into the left-hander down to turn 8, and for Adrian Cruz, he's just trying to make sure now that he stays with his teammate. We move into the final 6.5 laps. There's no point trying to get too aggressive just yet. If you're Adrian Cruz, you want to just make sure that you're able to work together to make sure that you stay in front of the next group. It's around about 1.8 seconds back to Carpe, but that can go pretty quickly if you start to get aggressive with one another. Yeah,
you don't want to start fighting each other with the 7 laps to go. It's a bit of a pointless exercise, it must be said, because all you're doing is costing each other time, and if you keep battling, you're doing it for a longer period of time. Through on the inside.
There's your battle now,
there we go. See now, let's see what the gap is. It was 1.8 last time around across the line between the first and third. It's going to be less than that now, I'm sure, as Hugo Milano crosses the line and takes the lead. Across the line they come. What is the gap? It's less than a second. So with them 2 moves on that last lap, they've cost each other a second, and it's just not a wise thing to do. Unless Hugo Milano was trying to slow the pace down on purpose. We don't know.
He certainly wouldn't be trying to slow down the pace. You don't want to have a bigger group at the front than you possibly can. That was a case of in the ETC riders just not looking at it from the big picture perspective. It's very easy to get yourself sucked into the back of the rider in front of you, get yourself into a battle. Everyone does it, but you've got to be able to maintain that clear head. That's typically been what Adrian Cruz has been able to do through the course of this season so far. Suddenly for Carpe, you can see there that tail unit just flapping around a little bit. It is a little bit bumpy in a few places, but sometimes things can be a little bit loose out there as well.
The thing for Carpe is now, not only has he naturally gained time because the 2 ahead of him are messing around and passing each other, but Carpe now has the belief that he is going faster than them and he can do it. And it's kind of like a cycle of those 2 battle, so they naturally go slower. Carpe gets a little bit more incentive, he goes quicker, and the gap comes down at 2 ends of the scale. And Angel Piqueras is the fastest rider on track anyway, and he's also closing in. So we could have a 4-man scrap here, Steve. I'm not sure whether we'll get it in time, but the way it's going, it could definitely happen.
Yeah, Piqueras we can see here on the number 18 now within 2 seconds of the race leader. That's as close as he's been for a long time. You can see that he's been able to break away from Roberto Garcia behind him. So for Angel Piqueras now, just trying to close up on the back of Alvaro Carpe. We know that he's the fastest rider out there right now in this stage of the race, but let's see what happens with the 2 race leaders as they come across the line. The gap last time around was 0.9 of a second back to Alvaro Carpe. This time around, we see that Adrian Cruz crosses the line in front of his teammate Hugo Milano. Alvaro Carpe, he's managed to pull back another 1/3 of a second, and behind him as well, Angel Piqueras, once again the fastest rider out on track. So Piqueras closing up on Carpe, he's closing up on the race leaders. With 5 laps to go, suddenly we might see where Adrian Cruz and Hugo Milano have to start looking over their shoulder to see whether or not they have to defend from Alvaro Carpe. This is starting to heat up now in the European Talent Cup, Kiko.
It's not all done yet, is it, Steve? With 5 to go, I mean, we're in the last 1/3 of the race, but there's still, I mean, a couple of laps ago it looked like the top 2 were set. It was just in which order, but now I'm not so sure. Number 10 Cruz wants to win his first race of the season and wants to do it in front, wants to do it at home. He's not far away from this place. He's from Valencia himself. Carpe, a 1/3 of a second quicker than Hugo Milano there in second. That gap, Steve, is going to keep on coming down if they continue to battle away like this, although it looks like it's stabilised a little bit visually.
Yeah, last time around it was a 1/3 of a second Carpe took out of him. A lot of that coming in the second half of the lap as well. You can see Torrin Collins there out of the race as well, just coming up on the screen. But for Alvaro Carpe, that is Collins' bike. But for Alvaro Carpe right now, you've just got to get your head down. You've got to focus on making sure that you're able to close that gap. There's only 4.5 laps to go. Kiko, what happened with Collins?
Yeah, let's have a look. I think he's just going to lose the front out of picture. Is he going to... Oh, no, he's not lost the front. He's lost the rear in a big way. So Torrin Collins, wow, he's gone right over the top. I hope he's okay. Dearie me. I think the Olympics are next year, Steve, aren't they, with the pole vault and all of that. But he went high there, so hopefully he's up and okay. The bike was being pushed through the gravel. Meanwhile, at the front, Cruz says, and Hugo Milano still pushing on.
Yeah, you can see Hugo Milano there in second spot, closing in on the race leader once again. But look at Angel Piqueras. Last time around, he pulled in another chunk of time on the race leaders, and he had the fastest lap of the race. So he is closing on the race leaders. That is Piqueras on the 18. He's right there with Alvaro Carpe now. He's going to try and make the move as quickly as possible because he knows there's only 3.5 laps left for him to try and hit the front. If you're the race leaders, you've got to make sure that you're aware of what Angel Piqueras is doing, and I don't think they are, Kiko.
I don't think they are, because they've not really had to think about him. Piqueras is kind of ghosting himself up, but you can see how much quicker Hugo Milano is through the corners than Adrian Cruz is. And the problem is that you can't, if you're not close enough on the exit of the corners, you're not going to be able to make the pass where you are fast, and that's the problem. That's why these
try
two
and make the move here.
Yeah,
Piqueras down the inside, not quite able to do that. Alvaro able to hold him off, but as it is right now, Kiko, 3.5 laps to go. This is where Piqueras has put himself into probably the box seats right now because he has the opportunity.
He has the opportunity, he has the pace, and he's got the time, really. The last 3.5 laps are going to be, they're going to go quick. But Piqueras, if he can kind of just clear Carpe very, very soon, possibly even before the line on the next lap around, then he's in with a shout. But all 4 of them are very, very close. I reckon that's a second now that covers all 4 of them.
Yeah, certainly for Piqueras there on the 18. You can see taking that wide line. He wants to make sure he's able to get in the gas nice and early on the exit. Try and just use that slipstream, make the move down in towards turn 1. He knows with 3 laps to go, you've got around about 5 minutes of action left. You've got to make sure that you're able to make your moves as quickly as possible if you're Piqueras on the 18. As it is, he's probably a little bit too far back to make the move into turn 1. Uses the slipstream. Is he going to be brave on the run in? Not quite. Alvaro Carpe able to hold him off. This is the next group then. Javi still out in front of that. Roberto Garcia and then Jacob Rollston. But as you can see now, the leading group has gone from 2 to 4. Piqueras, he's going to try and run around the outside and run down the inside. Really good riding from Alvaro Carpe though to run around the outside. Carpe with a quick look over his shoulder. He knows exactly what's going to happen during the course of these final 2.5 laps. Kiko, if you're Hugo Milano, you've got to try and make a move now.
You've just got to take the kind of invest. You've got to punt your teammate out the way and cost yourself a bit of time in order to escape, really. It's clear that Hugo Milano's got better pace at this point of the race. We're in the final 3 laps, really. He can't afford to sit behind. They should be reading the pit boards, really. The pit boards will be saying the gap is coming down.
Yeah, and if you're Hugo Milano, you really do need to set up the move now. If he's able to do it into turn 11, he can at least give himself a little bit of time to be able to break away. We know that he's got that little bit of speed advantage right now over his teammate, but maybe Adrian's just been keeping his powder dry a little bit at this stage. Piqueras certainly isn't. Down the inside into 11. He knew there was an opportunity. He pounces on it. 2.5 laps to go. Alvaro Carpe is going to try and attack back. Piqueras taps his tail unit. He's already been overtaken at that stage. So for Piqueras, he's got to make sure that he's able to make a move down the start-finish straight. There's only 2 laps remaining. Piqueras has been given a track limits warning though. So any more strays off that track, he's going to get a penalty. So for Angel Piqueras, he's done a great job to bridge that gap. Needs to be a little bit careful now, but let's see what happens as they come across the line. It's still Cruz and Milan trying to use that slipstream to make a move down in towards turn 1. 2 laps to go. This is when he's got to try something to see if he's able to take the race lead. Not close enough. Didn't actually try and ghost down the inside. It's still Piqueras up there in 3rd spot. He's on a track limits warning, and he's over the track limits once again. We saw race direction made a penalty after the fact on Max Martinez in race 1. Angel Piqueras is running the risk now in 3rd position. At the front of the field though, still Adrian Cruz, but he's going to be under attack here from Milan very soon.
Yeah, this is what we said could happen. You know, it's going to be a group of 4. It is a group of 4 now. The Cunha de Campeones team, they are waiting on to see how this one plays out. But I would tell you what, 2 laps to go. We've got an actual ETC race, Steve. We've got a few riders in the mix here. And do you know what? It could go any way, which way. We don't have a clue who could do this. It'd be unlucky for the top 2 not to get it, but they've not been smart with their riding it. Look at Piqueras, surely not to.
Make your own luck in the ETC. Piqueras certainly making his luck during this race. He's bridged the gap of round about 2.5 seconds to get into this leading group. We know he's got a track limits warning. We know that he ran off the track at turn 1 though. So for Angel Piqueras, he's got to be careful, but he's also got to try and hit the front here. You can see with Alvaro Carpe at the back of the group, he's been in the podium spots all the way through this race, finds himself in 4th, looks over his shoulder, knows that it's a battle between these 4 now. He's got a lap and a half to try and hit the front. Angel Piqueras though has got a lap and a half to try and hit the front. front as well. He's run a little bit wide there. Is that going to open a door for Hugo Milano? Hugo's been in second spot for most of this race. Suddenly shuffled down to third. He's going to try and get down the inside there, the 44. Good job to be able to take that position. Now needs to use the slipstream, see if he's able to attack on the run down in towards turn 1. As we start the final lap, it's the number 10 of Cruz, the 44 Milan. Angel Piqueras has been the fastest rider all the way through this race. Is he going to be able to use the slipstream to hit the front?
Yes.
Gets into first on the run down in towards turn 1. Alvaro Carpe on the 83, trying to get down the inside. He's going to get there on Hugo Milano, but with only 1 lap to go, are they costing themselves too much time? Because as it stands, Piqueras has the pace to try and break away.
The thing with Piqueras is this is his first chance at the front, and he's hit the front right at the right time. And for someone like Carpe, this is a huge opportunity. He needs the points, and he needs to get as many as possible. But the problem is, if he pushes on too much, he's back in square one again. He's back to where he started, and that's with not very many points. Piqueras is very, very quick. He's just starting to ease out. I don't think Hugo Milano's going to be too much of a threat for victory. Having said that, I have been wrong already today. We're down the back straight. It's anyone's really in the top 2 or 3.
Angel Piqueras weaving there to make sure he takes that tight line on the run down in towards the left hand. This is one of the overtaking opportunities. There's still 2 overtaking opportunities left into the turn 11, the right-hander. That's when we need to see someone just try and make the move. You can see here that they're sweeping across one another. Open the door for Carpe, but at the front of the field, Angel Piqueras still able to hold on to that race lead. You can see Hugo Milano at the back of this group now needing to make a last corner move on his teammate. Milan's too far back to be able to battle it for the race win, but let's see what Alvaro Carpe is able to do on the 83 into that final corner. Piqueras has been the fastest rider over the course of the last few laps. Is he going to be able to hold that tight line in the run into the last corner? He's not. Alvaro Carpe is going to try and get down the inside. He's going to barge down the inside, forces the move. A little bit of a bobble. Piqueras is down, so Piqueras is out of this one. Let's see who's able to take this race victory. It looks like it's Alvaro Carpe on the 83 able to take the race victory. Swept across the front of the number 10 of Adrian Cruz, and you can see the disappointment there for Angel Piqueras. Did such a good job to bridge that gap, got himself into there, and then at the last corner comes down.
Did you see that front end on Carpe? It was like he was riding through potholes. Unbelievable. The front end was chattering away. He left his brakes at the very last moment, and he just got the job done. Oh, first career victory for Alvaro Carpe, and that after the travesties that he's been through in the first couple of meetings is very well deserved. Carpe is back in the title race now. That is where his season starts, Steve.
Yeah, certainly for Alvaro Carpe there, we can see now he'll make his way back to Parc Ferme, but the disappointment for Angel Piqueras there, did all the hard work, came from round about 2.5 seconds down on the race leaders to get himself into the scrap on that last lap. He led into the last corner, got a little bit unsettled, massive moment on the exit of the corner, couldn't quite save it, and for all of his hard work, he'll come away with no points from race 2 here in Valencia. Disappointing there for Angel Piqueras after such a strong performance from him. He did well to come back from 10th on the grid. He scored points in race 1, but unfortunate for him not to come away with a chance of being able to scrap it out for that race victory. Adrian Cruz, we saw very consistent in the early races of the season in Estoril, and then also this morning he's been able to come away with another podium finish here. Hugo Milano came into this race as our championship leader. Might actually be Cruz that now leads the championship by maybe a point. We'll have to wait for the updated standings, but those 2 riders, a really good job all the way through this race. They led it for almost all of the race. It was a 1-2 for the team. They started to battle with one another. It cost them just that little bit of time, a little bit of momentum, and that's what allowed Alvaro Carpe to close on those race leaders with Angel Piqueras. They were able to bridge the gap. It looked in the middle of the race like Carpe had given himself a bit too much to bite off, but instead, as it came down to it on the last corner, he was brave, made the move, picks up his first European Talent Cup race victory. An absolute disappointment of what happened in Estoril, where he crashed out of the leading positions in the last lap of the race. He's now got his opportunity to make up for a mechanical issue in race 1 today to pick up those 25 points. Celebrated all the way around this lap. I'll tell you what, there'll be a good celebration down in Parc Ferme. It's going to be interesting to hear what he has to say whenever he's talking to Kiko down there as well, because that was a real classic battle in the ETC. You can see it in the ETC where riders do break away and the group splinter, but sometimes that battling can also come back to haunt those riders whenever they do break away, and that's exactly what happened in this race. Carpe was able to keep his cool head and make sure he was able to constantly make his progress along with Piqueras, and when it came down to it, he was the one that was able to come away with the race win and the 25 points, able to celebrate there with his team. exactly how excited the team are down there as well. And for Alvaro Carpe, comes from a racing family. Brother is racing in the Moto2 class here in the Stock 600 series. And for Alvaro, this one's going to mean an awful lot for him and for the team after that bit of disappointment earlier on today. But in these early stages of the season, obviously this is the 4th race of the year in the European Talent Cup. It really is a case of just giving yourself those opportunities on a consistent basis. They'll know that they only have one race at each of the next 2 rounds. That's in Catalonia in about 5 weeks' time, and then in Portimao a few weeks after that. So it does tend to slow down a little bit mid-season for the European Talent Cup before the double headers of Aragon and Jerez, and then we're back in Valencia for the final round of the year. But in these opening 4 races of the year, you really can do a lot to separate yourself out. And Hugo Milan's been able to do that as well. He's done a really good job all the way through these opening races of the year. Very consistent, able to take that pole position as well for today's races. So we know he's been fast all the way through, and it'd be interesting to see how he can build on that when we're back in action in Catalonia. Big smile for Alvaro Carpe, and a big hug as well from his team. Really was very impressive stuff from Carpe. We're going to get a chance to see that overtaking move on the last corner again fairly soon, but Alvaro able to keep a real cool head during that race. Very easy to get yourself flustered whenever you give up as much time as Carpe had done in the early stages of the race. But instead, he dug in. He made sure that he was able to get in the back of Angel Piqueras. And then this is the move into the last corner. He comes from 3rd down the inside on the number 10 of Adrian Cruz, and also on Piqueras. Takes the lead, has that bit of a bobble. That kind of upsets some of the momentum for some of the other riders. You can see there for Piqueras, he was just a little bit unlucky there, just on the limit. Gets caught out, actually makes contact there with Adrian Cruz. Couldn't see that from the outboard shot. But from that position, no real chance of saving it. And very unfortunate there for Angel Piqueras. But that's the kind of bar-to-bar battle that you get in the European Talent Cup. And for Alvaro Carpe, he's been able to come away with 25 points here in the 4th race of the European Talent Cup season. And for Carpe, that one's going to be one that you remember, his first race victory in the Talent Cup. And let's see how he's able to build on that over the course of the rest of the season. He's been fast in Estrella, he's been fast in Valencia, and he's been able to do a really solid job all the way through to give himself that opportunity to come away with 25 points. Let's hear from him. He's down in Parc Fermé with Kiko.
Alvaro Carpe, finally your first win in ETC. How do you feel?
Yeah, it's a race so difficult. At the first of the race, I was pushing. I was disconcentrated, but finally I concentrate and I have the win. Thank you for my family, for my team, and for my mechanics.
And in Spanish?
Sí, ha sido una carrera muy difícil. Desde el principio de la carrera he estado tirando. Me he desconcentrado mucho, pero después he logrado concentrarme y finalmente he conseguido la primera posición gracias a mi familia, a mi equipo y a mi mecánico.
Alvaro, the first of many. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Final race of the day was the European Talent Cup, and at the start of the race, Alvaro Carpe able to make a fast start to take the whole shot from Jacob Rollston. Max Martinez has been fast all the way through the start of this European Talent Cup season. Unfortunately for him, an issue on the start line meant that he had to start from pit lane. Adrian Cruz led the early stages of the race from his teammate Hugo Milano, while we saw David Alsina crash out of the race. Alvaro Carpe had a lonely race in the early stages, dropped by the race leaders, and then with a big gap to the riders behind him. This was Max Martinez recovering through the field and unfortunate to crash out of the race. At the front of the field though, it was Cruz versus Hugo Milano. Milan was our pole setter and fast all the way through this race, but their battling actually ended up costing them time, and that's what brings the rest of the field closer to them. This is the mid-pack battling, and a lot of incident all the way through it, including quite a few crashes in this European Talent Cup race. At the front of the field, Angel Piqueras recovered well after losing time. He was able to make a move there on Alvaro Carpe and would eventually try and make his way to the front of the field. This is getting through on Hugo Milano, and then he would also make the move on our race leader at the time, Adrian Cruz. On the final lap, Alvaro Carpe sliced through the leading group, but went into the last corner third, came out of it in first, and Angel Piqueras came out of it on the ground. Alvaro Carpe able to claim his first race victory in the European Talent Cup. Alvaro Carpe able to claim his first race victory in the European Talent Cup, did that by less than a tenth of a second from Adrian Cruz and Hugo Milano. Final race of the day in the books in the European Talent Cup. And Kiko, again, just like Estoril, we've had 5 great races here at round 2 of the CEV series.
Yeah, unbelievable 5 races again, Steve. I mean, that's 10 in total across the 2 weekends we've had. This season is going to be just as good, if not better, than all of the ones that have been before.
It's just a shame that next time out we'll only have 1 European Talent Cup race.
Just a shame next time out's 5 weeks away.
Well, that too as well. Long wait until we go to Catalonia for the next round of the championship. Obviously, a lot of these riders will be in action in different classes as well. We talked about it in the Moto3 class. A lot of those riders racing in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. And certainly for these riders in the European Talent Cup, this is another example, Kiko, of everything you can learn during the course of these races. And they would have learned an awful lot from what we saw from Angel Piqueras and also from our race winner Alvaro Carpe.
Exactly, and you know they'll be learning all the time, and that's the great thing about this paddock, about this class, is that the learning literally never stops. And hopefully by the time we get to Catalonia, they've all made another step forward in racecraft, in ability and strategy, in qualifying, and etc. etc.
And you can see now Alvaro Carpe able to take that trophy for his first race victory in the European Talent Cup. He had a podium last year in Aragon, but this one's going to be the one that he remembers. Really impressive ride from him. Kept a cool head all the way through. And for Alvaro from down the road in Murcia, this is a day to remember.
En honor del piloto ganador, escuchamos el himno nacional.
Kiko, really good stuff from Alvaro Carpe to take that race victory. We saw him keep cool head whenever he got dropped by the race leaders, and when the opportunity presented himself, he made sure to make that move on the final lap, down in towards the right-hander. He got himself up into the second spot, and then into that last corner, he made sure it was him that was going to come out first.
And it's a long time coming. We've seen this, Steve, a couple of times last year, but also this season. He has been fast. He is one of the favourites for this title, and now he's finally a race winner.
Yeah, And certainly for Alvaro Carpe, this will be one of those days that he remembers for a long time. But now he needs to build on it as well. He's been fast all the way through the season. Pole position at the season opening races of the year in Estoril. You can see there, big hug up on the podium as well. And certainly for Alvaro, the potential's been there. And now he's really making sure that he's making the most of it.
Yeah, and you know, he's making the most of it, and he is going to do this many, many more times. This is not going to be his only victory.
And for Adrian Cruz, he's going to continue to lead the championship. He led it after Estoril, now leads it by a point from his teammate Hugo Milano, while our race winner from race 2 here in Valencia, Alvaro Carpe, moves up into the top 10. We've had 5 great races here in Valencia. It's capped off by Alvaro Carpe claiming his first European Talent Cup race victory. It'll be 5 weeks until the FIM CEV Repsol Series is back in action. That'll be in Montmelo on the 13th of June. And until then, for myself, Steve English, Kiko Giles, big thank you to everyone for watching today's action.